So signing day for the 2024 cycle has come and gone, but it's never too early to think ahead this time next year. Who does Tennessee need to prioritize for the class of 2025? I'm going to give you a list of prospects both in-state and out-of-state here on a Friday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Friday morning, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Vols. I am Eric Kane. Appreciate you guys for being here as always, making Locked On Vols your first listen each and every day. Want to give a shout out to Game Time for being a part of the show today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Got a fun show coming up here today, and again, we're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every single day. Appreciate you guys making this your first listen. Hashtag everydayers. Can't thank you enough. I truly can't thank you enough. I'm going to have a fun show here. Looking ahead to 2025 National Signing Day, who could be some of those names on the list for Tennessee? Matt Hayes over at Saturday Down South redid his quarterback rankings from going into the season to postseason. I'll tell you where Joe Milton fits on that one. And then finally, we'll look at some of the Pro Football Focus season grades for Tennessee and a couple of announcements there in segment number 3. I do want to get out in front of you guys and let you know that Monday, Christmas Day, we will have a show. It's going to be if I get it scheduled on a Friday afternoon, it's going to be a crossover with Log On Hawkeyes, and so something for you guys to have if you want to listen. Tune in on Monday on Christmas Day on your way to see family. If you're trying to sneak off and get away from family, maybe later in the week you can catch up on it. But we will have a show on Monday, and I do wish you and yours, your family, and a very, very Merry Christmas. Special time of the year. Love this time of the year. It's awesome. And unfortunately, you might can tell in my voice right now, it's getting a little weak. The winter air, it's been a little chilly the last couple of days, so I got a little bit of a sore throat. So if I sound, I know you guys may think I always sound bad, but if I sound a little bit different today, I do apologize. Hopefully, I'll kind of get over this sore throat in the coming days. But anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump down into it. Tennessee in the 2025 cycle. Again, we just came off National Signing Day on Wednesday this past week, and there were really no surprises. Tennessee did what it was supposed to do. All the commits, signed and as a part of that class. Tennessee welcomed officially 3 additions from the transfer portal, and of course, still tracking to see if Tennessee can rail in a top target wide receiver in Chris Brazzell and some other names as the weeks continue. But you now start to focus on 2025, and as we do all the time here on Locked On Vols, when we're talking recruiting, we want to give a shout out to LinkedIn Jobs. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, so who are some of those names that Tennessee is going to absolutely prioritize for the class of 2025? Well, it starts with the quarterback, as it usually does, and a really, really nice in-state prospect from Brentwood Academy, and that is George MacIntyre. You know the name. We talked about him on this show an awful lot. You follow VolQuest. Obviously, you know that he is the target for Tennessee in the class of 2025, a quarterback coming down between Tennessee and Alabama. I think George MacIntyre can make a decision as early as January. He was back on campus for the Georgia game. He saw Tennessee play in Nashville against Virginia. He's been on campus tons over the last year, and the last time he was on campus, he told VolQuest, hey, I'm about done taking visits. I'm about to work towards a decision-making process. He said, quote, "It was great to be back up here. Just another chance to see these good schools. Probably will be my last couple of visits coming up. I don't think I need any more junior days. I feel like I've seen everything. So, yeah, just another chance to be around the staff at each different school." So that was George MacIntyre back in November. But, he's a 5-star rated prospect over at On3, 15th overall in the cycle, number 1 prospect in the state of Tennessee, 6'5", 180 pounds. And again, Tennessee and Alabama are kind of battling for George MacIntyre. Family connections to Tennessee. I believe his sister goes to Tennessee. I think he's going to take this time and make the decision for himself, but Tennessee does like kind of where they are with George MacIntyre right now. So that's an absolute priority in-state, of course, George MacIntyre, the quarterback. Athlete Cam Sparks down in Baylor, and, when I was covering recruiting more than I do now before Matt Ray came aboard over at VolQuest.com, I remember talking to Cam Sparks when he was a freshman, and I mean, he was so young, obviously, and still young, but just so young and new to the interview scene and all that type of stuff, and didn't quite know the direction of where he was going to be. Tennessee originally kind of he's an athlete. Tennessee originally kind of liked him in the defensive backfield, but I think as he's grown throughout high school and matured, I think programs such as Tennessee kind of view him more as a weapon on offense now, and he's another one of those prime in-state prospects who's been up to campus a ton of times over the last couple of years. Can play on either side of the ball, 6'3", 210 pounds. Again, a Baylor school standout. The 62nd overall player in the prospect, according to On3. The third best prospect in the state of Tennessee. And just like MacIntyre, I mean, just like a lot of these prospects I'm going to mention here in a moment in this segment, was up on campus for the Georgia game recently, but been on campus tons of times. Cam Sparks said to VolQuest after that Georgia game, or this is actually in August when he was up on campus, I feel like I'd be a great fit because I would be a vertical threat to any defense. I also know I can run those shallow crossing routes and I can take those hits. It's very appealing to any recruit to play in this offense. So that's what Cam Sparks has recently said about Tennessee. What about another guy that Tennessee's going to absolutely prioritize? Defensive lineman Ethan Utley from Innsworth High School. He is a force, 6'3", 275 pounds. Again, been up to Neyland Stadium for a couple game day visits. Has been up for a couple junior days, all that and more. He watched actually Tennessee play South Carolina, Texas A&M, and Georgia this past football season. He's a top 50 prospect overall, according to On3, number 43 in the class. He's the number 2 prospect from the state of Tennessee. Rodney Garner has connections to his family. I believe he knows his mom. They go way back. I think they were both at Georgia at the same time. So nonetheless, connections to the family, and hopefully that can pay some dividends. But Ethan Utley's a force, and he's going to have his pick of wherever he wants to go in college football, but Tennessee is very much in that one. All right, let's go outside the state of Tennessee real quick when we first bring up the offensive tackle. I'm going to mention David Sanders. David Sanders is the number 1 offensive tackle in the country. He's the number 2 overall prospect in the class. He literally can pick wherever he wants to go. 6'5", 250 pounds. Came up for the Vanderbilt game and was really, really impressed. Really, really liked Tennessee. He said, quote, Tennessee's been one of those schools that that has been prominent in my recruitment so far, so they're definitely probably doing the best out of everybody in my opinion, he said at the time. They stay in constant communication with me and my family. They do a great job at just coordinating times to FaceTime and talk when we get the chance because I have a busy schedule and I understand their schedule is busy as well. They are always staying connected with me and my family, which I really appreciate. Not only are they building that relationship with me and my family, but that plays a major role in my recruitment. So David Sanders, good standing with Tennessee right now. Tennessee will have to keep on that one because, again, number 2 overall prospect in the cycle, number 1 offensive tackle, and he is from Georgia, I believe. Yeah, from Georgia. Another offensive tackle, and this is a Roswell, Georgia native. This is Josh Petty. If Sanders was the number 1 offensive tackle in the class, Petty is likely the number 2 offensive tackle in the class. So 6'4", 265 pounds, 11th best prospect, 2nd offensive tackle. He grew up a Tennessee fan, and I think that's kind of big, right? So if you miss on Sanders, Petty, you're right there, you're recruiting him, and he grew up a Tennessee fan. Told VolQuest in October, quote, growing up a Tennessee fan, getting that offer was crazy. I'm not going to lie. I remember where I was and everything about it. I remember every word of the conversation. I remember thinking, this is crazy to get an offer from my dream school growing up. As I further into my recruitment, I knew I had to work past that and look at each school to know that this is a business decision, but earning that offer was special for me. Got to take advantage of that if you're Tennessee. You've got to take advantage of that if you're Tennessee. Let's go back to the in-state prospects. Joakim Dotson, 3-star wide receiver from the Memphis area, number 9 prospect in the States. Nice little wide receiver. He's one that Tennessee likes. Rodarius Jackson is a guy that you probably have never heard of, but you're going to hear his name an awful lot. 6'2", 180-pound athlete from Sheffield High School in the Memphis area. He won Tennessee Titans Mr. Football Award for the Class 3A this year. He had 1,742 all-purpose yards, 27 total touchdowns, 40 tackles on defense, 7 interceptions on 40 tackles on defense, along with 7 interceptions. Tennessee, Auburn, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, kind of the first to offer there from the SEC. Really talented player, Wide receiver is kind of his future in the game, but you probably haven't heard his name, but you will, Rodarius Jackson. And then finally, the last prospect I'm going to highlight here is Caleb Cunningham, wide receiver. Tennessee's after him. He's a 5-star, 6'3", 185-pound athlete from Mississippi. Kelsey Pope was in town to see him a couple weeks ago, and he was in town to see Tennessee play. I can't remember when it was. One of these games this fall. He said, quote, "This is one of my top visits. I love Tennessee. It's a good vibe down here. I'll be back during the spring for sure. They're going to be at the top of my list. I love everything about Tennessee. It's a good vibe." Yada, yada, yada. So, again, initial contact, get in the game. That's kind of where you were when the focus is on the 24 cycle. You need to just get in the game for this 25 recruits, and then you got to work to get them back to campus for junior day. Then you got to work to get them back to campus for a spring practice. Then you got to work to get them back to campus for a June official visit. You got to close. Caleb Cunningham, wide receiver. Rodarius Jackson, wide receiver. Joakim Dotson, wide receiver. Tackles, Josh Petty, David Sanders, defensive lineman Ethan Utley, athlete Cam Sparks, wide receiver, and then quarterback George MacIntyre. Priority targets for Tennessee in the class of 2025, and we will see if those guys end up being a part of the class of 2025 for the University of Tennessee. Hey, when we come back, we're going to take a look at a story over Saturday Down South from Matt Hayes, where he goes back and re-ranks his quarterback rankings and shows how wrong he was at times entering the season. That is coming up next right here on Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. Do you want to tell you about our friends over at Game Time? You shouldn't have to worry about buying tickets to your next big event. Game Time's a fast, it's an easy way to buy tickets for all your sporting events. Plus, not only sporting events, but music, comedy, theater events, all near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and they have the best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Hey, Christmas, if you're like me, you're still looking for those last-minute Christmas deals, okay? Game Time can be just that stocking stuffers. Get tickets to the Tennessee Volunteers at Thompson Bowling Arena at Food City Center, Tennessee Baseball at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Hey, even maybe some tickets for Tennessee football next year. Maybe comedy and theater shows near you. Game Time, you can do all that to have those digital stocking stuffers this Christmas time. Plus the lowest price guarantee, even event cancellation protection and job loss protection. So Game Time has your back. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDCOLLEGE, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guarantee. All right, guys, welcome back into your Friday edition of Locked On Vols. I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas. Be safe this weekend. Enjoy it. Again, it's going to be a busy weekend for me. I'm sure it's going to be a busy weekend for you. Going to pre-record some episodes to get out in front of it, to have an episode on Monday, on Tuesday, because I don't want to record on Christmas Day. And then on Wednesday's show, I'm going to pre-record as well, because I'm going to be on the road on Tuesday, the day after Christmas. So there's going to be some movement in the transfer portal. I invite you to stay patient. I promise I'll hit it. And if Tennessee does get a big wide receiver target at some point on Friday, I will do my best to get something up on YouTube for you guys to check out. All right, so let's visit Saturday Down South real quick. You got Matt Hayes. He's revisiting and updating his preseason SEC quarterback rankings. He says, hey, I'm going to go ahead and get this out there, first and foremost. I called Jaden Daniels being the best quarterback in the SEC. I got that one right. This is Matt Hayes. But he said after that, he missed on some couples. So let's kind of look at this. He said Jaden Daniels will be the best quarterback in the SEC. That's kind of where he ranks him in postseason. That was spot on, obviously, the Heisman Trophy winner. His second quarterback, when he's going back and re-ranking these quarterbacks in the SEC, is Jalen Milroe. He had Milroe unranked coming into the season. So I don't know. I have to go back and find his initial rankings. I don't know if he had Tyler Buckner. I don't know if he had Ty Simpson. Maybe he didn't have Jalen Milroe in there at all. Maybe he just hit the top 10. But he had Jalen Milroe unranked. And Jalen Milroe had a fantastic year, was benched after the Texas loss, which makes no sense. I guess that was just so that everybody could see that he was the best option. I don't know. I don't know why that matters if you're a head coach, but whatever. He's been on fire since that Texas loss. 28 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions, all wins since the Texas loss. SEC championship game MVP, and he's coming back for another year. and he'll be in that Heisman conversation, so you can't really argue with that. Carson Beck is his number 3 quarterback postseason in the SEC. Preseason ranked, he had Beck at 4th. I mean, he had a really good year. It's hard to argue. First-year starting quarterback completed 72% of his passes. He threw for almost 4,000 yards, 22 touchdowns. Again, he's coming back. He made that announcement this week, and he'll be at the premier talk of Heisman Trophy winners. So, re-ranking his quarterback rankings: 1, Jaden Daniels; 2, Jalen Milroe; 3, Carson Beck. Number 4 comes in, and it's Jackson Dart. He had Jackson Dart ranked 3rd going into the season, so he slides 1, and that's tough sledding because Jackson Dart had a really, really good year. 3,300 yards passing, 300 total yards, 3,362 total yards, 377 rushing, 27 touchdowns. He didn't struggle down the stretch like he did in 2022. Last 5 games, he had 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, almost won 4 times, and he did a really, really nice job where in 2022, where the Rebels lost 4 of the last 5 games, he struggled immensely. His number 5 quarterback is Spencer Rattler. He had Rattler ranked preseason 8th. Rattler had a really, really strong start to the season, kind of tailed off after that. Still no Josh or Joe Milton, right? Still no Joe Milton. Go to number 6. Could this be Joe Milton here? No, it's Brady Cook. He had Brady Cook ranked 13th going into the season. Brady Cook is his 6th quarterback postseason, and Brady Cook had some really good numbers this year. He had a really, really strong season. Hayes writes, his numbers were up across the board, the biggest and most pertinent: average yards per attempt. It's a statistic measured by NFL scouts. Cook went from 7.2 yards per attempt in 2022 to 9.1 yards per attempt in 2023. That's kind of the difference in he and Joe Milton. Joe Milton's yards per attempt this year was not a very good stat. But anyway, Cook finished with 3,189 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, 6 INTs. He'll be one of the top returning quarterbacks in the Southeastern Conference next year. Okay, so if Brady Cook is 6th, surely to goodness Joe Milton's going to be 7th, right? Well, Matt Hayes has Graham Mertz at number 7, where he had Mertz preseason ranked 14th. And I'll be the first one to tell you, I did not see Graham Mertz having the best year of his career in a tougher conference after being super mediocre and not very good at Wisconsin for 4 years. Coming to the SEC, where you face tougher competition week in and week out, Graham Mertz had a career year. Granted, he had better toys to play with. I recognize that, but got to give props to Graham Mertz, man. He went from completing, let's see here, his lifetime completion percentage was in the low 60s, and he was up around 70 this year. He had a really, really strong season. So, and he's coming back next year as well. Joe Milton's got to be 8th on this list, right? Well, no. Connor Wagman is 8th on this list, and that really stings because Connor Wagman got hurt in week 4. He got hurt in week 4, but Hayes is putting Wagman here because, 1, his injury might have cost Jimbo Fisher his job, and 2, he was on pace to throw for 3,600 yards, 32 touchdowns. So Connor Wagman was having a breakout year until his injury, and of course he got injured before the Tennessee game. All right, Joe Milton comes in here at 9th. Finally, Joe Milton at 9th. Preseason ranked, he was at number 7 for Matt Hayes. This is what he has to say about Joe Milton. It didn't look anything like Hendon Hooker or Dylan Gabriel or Mackenzie Milton or even Drew Locke. The offense under Coach Josh Heupel, so prolific at Tennessee his first 2 seasons and before at UCF and even as the OC at Missouri, wasn't the same in 2023. Throws were either to the perimeter or deep. Second-level throws were very rare. Milton had a solid season, 2,813 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, but solid doesn't translate to breakthrough wins against Alabama or Georgia, much less Florida. A lot of truth in that. Let's go look at the Pro Football Focus stats for Joe Milton on the year. A ton of deep or a ton of lateral, essentially. And there's some truth to that. Joe Milton's had 61 passes, 20 yards or more down the field. Joe Milton had 66 passes, 10 to 19 yards down the field. So in comparison, more in that intermediate range, but you got to think the high volume of deep throws at 61. But short, screen passes, things below 10 yards, 124 attempts, and 88 passes behind the line of scrimmage this year. So there's a whole lot of truth to that for sure. Hayes has Milton ranked at number 9, and that's honestly probably about right. I mean, I would have probably put him above Connor Wagman simply because I mean, you got hurt, man. Like, I'm not gonna put you in a rankings just based on what your projections were. I mean, 32 touchdowns was really good. I mean, if you're going straight up based on projections, he should be in the top 5, in my opinion. I'd probably have Joe Milton at 8. I'd probably have, yeah, I mean, I can't really argue. He was very, very, very middle of the pack quarterback in the SEC this year. Behind him, he had Will Rogers at number 10. His preseason rank for Rogers was 2. And, of course, he never jived with the new OC there. And his completion percentage, which was career 70%, went down to 59% this year. That's not good. Of course, he's going to be at Washington next year. A.J. Swan is his 11th quarterback after being preseason ranked 12th. And his 12th quarterback in the SEC is Devin Leary after his preseason rank for Leary was 6th in the SEC. And, of course, I was high on Leary this offseason. I thought he would have done a whole lot better than what he did this year. K.J. Jefferson was preseason ranked 9th. Hayes has him at number 13, and Peyton Thorne, who was preseason ranked 10th, he has him at 14. So, anyway, I thought that was interesting, kind of going back, seeing how Matt Hayes ranked them going into the season and how he came back and re-ranked them towards the end of the season and where Joe Milton was in that conversation. He had Joe Milton at number 7 entering the year, Joe Milton at number 9 exiting the year. Where do you think Nico Iamaleava will appear on this list heading into the 2024 campaign? Now, we got to wait a couple months, but that, of course, will be intriguing to say the least. Hey, when we come back, more Pro Football Focus stats from the season as a whole. We'll get a quick snapshot, and we'll look at, of course, an award, essentially, or an honor, essentially, for running back Jalen Wright. That is coming up next right here as you listen to Locked On Vols. Do want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. The weather is cool outside, but the NFL offers, they stay hot over at FanDuel, like the one I just read off there. I'm going to say it again. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That is not bad at all. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time than right now to get in on that action. Again, I just mentioned it's $150 if your team wins. Nothing too hard there. Spreads, player props, over-unders, totals. We love the overs here on Locked On Vols. Parlays. Get a whole lot of fun, and you can do it over at FanDuel Sportsbook. They've got games tomorrow on Saturday. Of course, your Sunday slate. There's an awesome Christmas Day showdown between the 49ers and the Ravens. That's going to be exciting. You can stay in the game, stay engaged, and have something to play for over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Plus, more importantly, put some coin in your pocket this holiday season. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to kick off the NFL season today. That is FanDuel. It is America's #1 sportsbook. All right, boys and girls, the final segment left here on this Friday edition of Locked On Vols. And again, if there's any breaking news today, I will do my best to come out and get something up on YouTube. I'm going to be gone all day Saturday, celebrating Christmas with the family. Sunday, we'll see what happens. Monday's Christmas. I'm not doing a thing on work-related on Christmas. And then Tuesday, I'm going to be in the car. But Chris Brazzell should be making an announcement literally any day now, in my opinion, between Tennessee, Colorado, Washington's in that conversation. But Tennessee very, very much wants the transfer portal deflection from Tulane. So hopefully we'll see if anything happens in that regard. All right, so wanted to get a quick snapshot, kind of what the Pro Football Focus grades were for the University of Tennessee this year. We mentioned Joe Milton, a little bit on him a moment ago. Let's see here. Let's look at the offensive grades for Tennessee. Tennessee's highest grade for the season was running back Jalen Wright, who was invited to the Reese's Senior Bowl on Thursday. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. I am not going to sit here and lie to you guys. I saw that tweet, and I did like 7 double takes, okay? And I clicked on the profile to make sure it was truly Jalen Wright. And in my mind, I'm like, he's a junior. He's a junior. How is this possible? He's a junior. I did not know that the Reese's Senior Bowl changed criteria this year, first year, where they're taking draft eligible juniors as well. Had no clue. So there's that. I think I've made mention a couple of different times, like Jalen Hyatt last year, who was ineligible to play in the Shrine Bowl or the Reese's Senior Bowl or anything, that Jalen Wright wouldn't be taking part in any of that. Well, I was wrong. Jalen Wright, if he accepts his invitation, which he should, he'll be heading down to Mobile. What an honor! Again, that's cream of the crop right there. The game doesn't mean a thing. I mean, sure, you want to ball out in the game, but the week of practice is huge because multiple representations, let me try that again. Multiple representatives from every NFL franchise is going to be there. Head coaches, director of scouting, GMs. I mean, they're just sitting there watching all week at practice, one-on-one drills, 7-on-7, all that type of stuff, team periods. And that's why it's huge for Joe Milton. That's why it's going to be huge for Jalen Wright if he accepts it. So congratulations to Jalen Wright. That's quite the honor. But Jalen Wright had a Pro Football Focus grade of 91.0 this year. And we remember, if you're watching on YouTube, I will put those grades at the bottom here, the grading scale. If I can find it. Here we go. Elite is 90 to 99. Very good is 80 to 89. Above average starter is 70 to 79. Average starter is 60 to 69. Below average starter is 50 to 59, and less than 50 is considered a backup level player. Again, I was going back and forth with some people in the general quarters earlier this week, or maybe it was last week, and there's a lot of people that don't like Pro Football Focus, and that's fine. Again, I say it every single time I bring Pro Football Focus on the show. It's something. It's not everything. If you don't like Pro Football Focus, that's fine. Ignore it. I like Pro Football Focus because it gives me snap counts. It gives me, yards with the ball travel through the air. It gives me directional passing. It gives me coverage grades. It gives me stats in terms of every time a receiver is targeted against a certain defensive back. I mean, there's a lot of useful things here from Pro Football Focus. But so when you're looking at these grades and you're listening to me say these grades, I do think someone mentioned this to me and I couldn't agree more. The accumulation of grades, I think, kind of stand for something. Now, individual grades, say somebody got a 55, offensive lineman got a 55 grade per Pro Football Focus in a specific game. I mean, sure, maybe there's something to that, but Pro Football Focus doesn't know what the blocking assignments are, doesn't know what the plays are called and everything. Maybe they did their job or whatever. So I don't buy a whole lot of stock into individual grades, but when you kind of compile them over a season's worth of games, I think it does give you a bigger picture. But anyway, grades are something, not everything. Take it or leave it. But Jalen Wright led Tennessee's offense with a 91.0 grade, which is considered elite, and he was certainly nothing short of elite this season. Dylan Sampson actually had the third highest grade for Tennessee on offense, 81.8. That is very, very solid. He played 247 offensive snaps. Joe Milton had the fourth highest grade on offense, 77.5 or 77.6 overall. Brew McCoy in just a couple of games, of course, 5 games, 69.7. Javonte Spraggin, 67.7. Jabari Small, 66.6. Dante Thornton, 66.5. McCallum Castles, 65.6. And so on and so forth. I want to look at blocking here. Let's see here. Pass blocking. The best pass blocker on the team this year of starters who actually played was Javonte Spraggins at 77.5% pass blocking grade, where he gave up only 2 sacks. John Campbell had a 73.5% pass blocking grade. He gave up 1 sack. Ollie Lane had a 69.7% pass blocking grade. He gave up 2 sacks. Dane Davis, 66.5 pass blocking grade. He gave up 1 sack. Cooper Mays, 66.1. He gave up no sacks. Andre Carrick, 64.8. He gave up 1 sack in 5 games. Gerald Mincy, let's see here. Gerald Mincy, 60% pass blocking grade. He gave up 2 sacks. Jeremiah Crawford, 49.5% pass blocking grade, gave up 2 sacks. And that's pretty much it from the starting offensive linemen. Let's look at run blocking, shall we? Run blocking grades. Javonte Spraggins, he had a really good year, 68.7. Dane Davis, 60.5. And see, this is where I don't really get it. I mean, we're getting down here to the nitty-gritty here towards the back end. I mean, you've got starting offensive lineman John Campbell, 51.2 run blocking grade. Ollie Lane, 56.4 run blocking grade. Cooper Mays, 58.6 run blocking grade. Tennessee ran for over 2,400 yards. I mean, Tennessee was the second best rushing team in the SEC, 12th best in college football. So I don't quite get these run blocking grades, if you will. Let's go to defense real quick. Let's look at coverage grades or coverage stats, if you will. Kamal Haddon was so elite. We know his stats. I mentioned him a couple of times. Jalen McCullough was targeted 20 times on the year, gave up 11 receptions for 127 yards and 2 touchdowns. Wesley Walker was targeted 18 times, gave up 16 receptions for 212 yards, no touchdowns. Tamari McDonald targeted 41 times, gave up 31 receptions for 3 touchdowns. Gabe Judy Lawley targeted 48 times, gave up 31 receptions, 405 yards, and gave up 1 touchdown. Ricky Gibson, a minimal time, targeted 9 times, gave up 4 receptions, 14 yards, no touchdowns. Let's see here. Danico Slaughter, where are you? Danico Slaughter targeted 29 times, gave up 24 receptions for 422 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's not too great. And I'm missing somebody. I'll just read off Kamal Haddon's again because they're so good. Kamal Haddon in 7 games, targeted 33 times, gave up 12 receptions for 96 yards and no touchdowns. He was so good on the season. So 3 interceptions, 6 PBUs. Haddon had 6 PBUs. McCullough had 2 PBUs. Walker had 2. McDonald had 3. Judy Lawley had 2. Beasley had 1. Brooks had 1. Jeremiah Thielander had 2. Danico Slaughter had 1. Danico Slaughter, he was banged up. He was dealing with a foot injury all year long, but he didn't quite have his best season. So anyway, some of those grades I want to throw out there, a season as a whole, and looking at how these Tennessee Volunteers performed according to Pro Football Focus. Guys, always do appreciate you. Can't thank you enough for being here and being a part of the show. Hope you guys have a very, very Merry Christmas. We'll be back on Monday for Christmas Day, a Locked On crossover edition. If you want to check that out, we'll have shows Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, getting you ready for Tennessee in the Citrus Bowl. Thanks so much. Stay safe this weekend, and we will talk again soon. This is Locked On Vols.